Before juvenile justice reform, the average population pre-trial detention and DH, which stands for detention home, 40 to 60 kids. And there was nothing to do in that facility. I mean, basically, there was just concrete everywhere. In those days, we would incarcerate not just kids that were charged with crimes, but kids who were called status offenders. And so status offenses are different from criminal offenses. A status offense is a violation of the law that would not be a violation of the law if you were an adult. So, for example, you have to go to school, that's the law. If you don't go to school, you can be arrested as a child. Running away, if I do that as an adult, that's not a crime, but if you're a child, it's a crime, and you can be arrested. Those kids were mixed in with a population of juveniles that had committed very serious crimes. So right there you have a recipe for recidivism and all these various different other sort of negative consequences. And if you went to look at HYCF at that time, in other words, you could get convicted of a serious crime as a juvenile, you're sent to HYCF in Kailua. When I was a young judge, there was anywhere from 60 to 90 kids there. Built for 30, but kids from all the various different islands who were found guilty of crimes and sentenced were sent, and if they were in prison post-conviction, were sent to HYCF. That was what we were facing when we started juvenile justice reform, because a number of the judges, myself included, said this is wrong. So with juvenile justice reform, we got rid of status offenders being placed in DH. We ended up reducing the number of kids from the number that I gave you, 40 to 60, today it's 7 for the whole state. 7. And routinely it's been in single digits. And HYCF was reduced from a high of 90 down to 20. And one of the things we looked at early on was the fact that most of the girls that were in the system were not dangerous. Not at all. And we began to understand the effect of trauma. And we began to understand how to identify girls who had been sexually exploited. So that came to a place and point where we started things like Girls Court, because most of the various different sort of services that are out there to be able to help kids were just basically oriented towards males. So we needed something specific to address what girls were going through, which is completely different from a lot of what males go through. So it had to be a little bit more gender specific, and they had different issues that they were dealing with, different kind of trauma. The most important issue that decision that the judge has to make is to come up with, how do we help this child, and this usually is a family involved, how do we heal them? And that means bringing together the various different resources that we have available to us, the tools that we need. Sometimes our kids have to wait months to get those services because we're just limited in terms of the availability. I'm talking about kids, for example, that come into our system. 80% of them have substance abuse issues, trying to get substance abuse issues that range from every kind of drug that you can imagine. When it comes to the mental health issues, and at least 65% of the children that come into our juvenile justice system, and also one could argue that that's increased by the number of kids that go into the CPS system, have incredible issues with respect to mental health. Prior to Pearl Haven, we did not have the resource that we really needed in this state that we could send a child to, knowing that that child would get the kind of care and the services and the love that he or she needed to get to a place where they would be healthy again. So there was this huge hole, or puka, within the system that Pearl Haven came in and thankfully filled.